King Lyndon Arthur is back, ready to stake a claim for a shot at world glory when he takes on Argentina's Walter Gabriel Shechiera. Part of a huge night of action on Saturday, September the 17th. It's live and free on Channel 5.
This is Harry Judd for Boxing Social in association with BetBread. We're here in Collierson, Moston in Greater Manchester. I'm delighted to be joined by Kalle Sauerland. I heard you speaking to Pat earlier. There's some history in this gym.
Oh, you can smell the history, you know, and I mean that in a nice way. Now, Pat's continued a tradition here from the godfather of Manchester boxing, Mr. Hughes, and it's a breeding ground of champions, British champions, European champions, and world champions in Lyndon Arthur. So, future world champions. But no, joking aside, what a gym. It's a pleasure to be here.
I think people, boxing fans, fight fans, appreciate a gym like this. The rugged, the old school, the spit and sawdust, Cal.
Yeah, it takes me back to my youth because I had to work in a few of these gyms. So I'm used to the sweat. You sort of get used to it, and in an odd way. I'm sure there'll be a few comments on that. Yeah, love a bit of sweat.
Nice one. Your first time promoting in Bolton. How excited are you for this weekend?
Yeah, we've obviously done lots of big shows in Manchester.
Never in Bolton. But never in Bolton?
Never in Bolton, no. I haven't been. I went to Bolton at Wanderers Away as a kid, as a Tottenham fan. So, yeah, looking forward to a big show Saturday night, Channel 5, 9:30, on a big night of boxing. So, we start it off and obviously they finish it in Vegas. We've got a bit of everything. Woodruff versus Gwynn kicks us off on the live feed with a 50-50, a real 50-50 lightweight British Championship. And you've got return of the King of Lyndon Arthur against a tough RG. But it's a fight also to put us on that map for those big domestic fights to take us to world level. And then you've, of course, got, Troy Williamson, we put out earlier this week. That fight with Josh Kelly is done, subject to him winning against another tough RG on Saturday night. So, eyes on the prize, Troy, which I'm sure he will have. He's a great fighter, and we're looking to put on a great fight. So, very interesting card on Saturday.
Talk to me about that Gavin Gwynn, that South Wales rivalry. Is a massive, massive fight that for the British title.
Yeah, I mean, I've been enjoying following the banter between them.
It's been going on for a while.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it? It has. It caught our attention, so we're like, okay, we'll have a bit of that. But on top of that, forget the banter. It's a very interesting fight, real 50-50 fight, and we don't know. Like, we know with Lyndon Arthur, people say, oh, it's an overmatched fight. Well, Lyndon's been out for a bit, so we've got to put him back in there. It might end up being a tough fight. It might end up being a knockout. He's predicting a big knockout, so we need those 50-50s on there as well to give us that nice blend between names and 50-50 fights. What I would say is having that on Channel 5, where you've got millions of viewers, that fight could have got lost somewhere. It's a 50-50 British top fight. It's a big fight, big domestic fight. And yes, the banter in the build-up has been very interesting, but ultimately it's also a fight which now gets the platform. Those guys, forget the banter, the tough work they've put in their gyms, week in, week out, all the commitment that they put on that, and they can show their art form on that level. That's with that many viewers. That's what it is. That's what I like to see in boxing.
Well, you recently signed Gavin Gwynn on a multi-fight deal.
Yeah, and we've actually signed both. So it's come with a champion, go with a champion. No, I mean, look, it's an interesting, but very interesting weight class. Irrespective of who wins, they're both very good fighters. It's a 50-50 fight. Obviously, someone's got to win, but doesn't mean the other one's bad. So it's a very interesting fight.
In terms of Lyndon Arthur, can you tell me why the reason why it's not a 10 rounder, it's an 8 rounder for Lyndon?
A little bit to do with the timings. We wanted to get all 3 fights on, so it's mainly down to that. But at the same time, he has been out, and despite everyone saying it's an easy fight, it's not an easy fight. This guy has not travelled up here to get ironed out. Yeah? So if it goes a distance, we felt 8 is more appropriate than 10 at this stage. Which could make it into a more difficult fight because the opponent also knows, well, we've got 8 rounds, makes it interesting.
In terms of Lyndon, he has been doing the business behind closed doors. He's been outsparring better BF, and you yourself were surprised that you got such a big name. This is a massive occasion for him.
Yeah, I mean, look it's lovely when you get a big signing out of the blue. There's big signings you work on for a long time. I remember, rolling back a few years now, but I remember signing George Groves. We worked on it for about 9 months behind closed doors. But this one, my brother just called me up and said, look, I think we've got Lyndon for a done. I said, nah, he must be signed to someone. He said, no. They've gone through all the paperwork, everything cool. I've gone, yeah, you don't why are you calling me? Just sign. So it was like, it was really interesting, and it's great working with a guy like Pat Barrett as well.
Yeah, historic gymnasts, historic trainers. But with Lyndon as well, I mean, obviously you're not overlooking this fight. It's good to have him back out. But in terms of the fights that Lyndon is looking at, I mean, I spoke to Lyndon a moment ago. Dan Aziz, he's mentioned that'll be a great fight.
You've got Anthony Yard, you've got Dan Aziz, you've got Boatsi. Out of those names, I'd say the Boatsi's the one that I would like the most. But Dan Aziz, fantastic fight, very good, all very good fighters.
Yeah.
You know, what can you say? All very good fighters who are looking to take that step up. Now, it's a crowded weight class at the top outside the UK, so it's a sort of fight for the right. So it's almost got a tournament-like feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. In terms of the card as well, Troy Williams is on it, hopefully setting up that fight with Josh Kelly. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, the reaction when we put that out on Monday night that we'd reached a deal for the fight, I think shocked a lot of people. And it's on, subject to Troy winning on Saturday night. But yeah, that's of course, I think, the show we're planning to do in the North East, which will be in December, there's some other elements that are getting added to it as well, which it's already huge, but it's going to be, I think, one of the biggest shows in many, many years in the North East.
And in terms of Josh Kelly, he is attending at the weekend. Any chance to see them both in the ring?
Well, let's see. I mean, Troy's got to get the business done first. Josh is rumoured to be filling the car with petrol on the way up, but let's see.
In terms of Nathan Gorman, originally on the show, not anymore. Can you tell me a little bit why the decision was made to not have him on there?
There's a few things that behind the scenes in training, but primarily is the focus on the big one, which we're just finalising at the moment.
It is now 3 weeks away. I think till Ben Eubank, it's starting to ramp up, hasn't it, Cal? The promotion, the one-on-one was fantastic.
Yeah.
You got to say that.
I mean, the one-on-one actually.
Were you surprised with the comments?
Well, look. First of all, I've worked with Junior for many years now. I think over 5 years.
Does he normally abstain?
I've never asked him. I don't have those sort of discussions with my male friends or clients or whatever. Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever asked. No, but when I saw it, the interesting thing was it was done on the day of the press conference, but they went off and did it alone with the production people. Yeah. Now they must have really kept that quiet because no one had flagged it to me. I obviously got the footage a couple of days before, but I didn't hear about it. And then I was literally like, you know what? I'm gonna save myself in a very different way, and not watch it until it goes out. And I'm sitting there watching, and I'm just like, this is. And I think I watched it 4 times because I had to go back, and it was so good. Look, and I think we're going to have a few more interesting weeks in the build-up to this one.
You have silenced the rumours, obviously, on Monday. Your phone must have been buzzing away with the Eubank senior comments.
It melted. The phone melted. I silenced them pretty quick, but no one really wants to hear from the promoter. They want to hear from the horse's mouth, and I think Junior has put out a few things since then about training, and I spoke to him that evening. We didn't really address it because I just saw it as a comment maybe made in a bigger conversation around things. And yeah, I wouldn't say, I'm not going to blame the journalist for putting it out of context. I would say more that if you have a big discussion, and I believe that Nigel Benn was there as well, that maybe those comments were taken out of a big discussion.
What were your conversations with Eddie at the time? I understand he was travelling on the way to Vegas. Were you able to chat with him about it?
The funny thing was, Eddie and Frank were on a plane to Vegas with no Wi-Fi.
Oh, God.
So if my phone went off like a machine gun, I guess theirs must have gone off like a grenade. It was an interesting Monday afternoon at the office.
Finally then, I've not heard any news about the undercard. When are we like to get an announcement on who will be on that?
Yeah, it's pretty much set. We'll go out with 1, maybe 2 announcements on it. We're going to do it this week. Both got shows this week. We got one obviously on Saturday night in Bolton. They got one in Vegas, so probably next week.
Any type of fights we're likely to see? I'm trying to get a little bit out of you, but I understand where you're coming from.
You're not going to get much out of me. There'll be Matchroom and Wasserman fighters.
So, man, cheers. Thanks to Boxing Social, Kalle.
This September, bad blood will be settled.
This is more than personal.
The long-awaited trilogy.
There's real bad blood here.
Canelo versus Triple G. September 17th, live on DAZN pay-per-view. Visit DAZN.com.